Warhammer preview. I know we've been making do for a while with a map or a miniature, and those have been cool, but wow! As you might tell, I'm a little bit excited about the Bretonnian release. There are a couple of things I want to highlight in this video, but first, let me just say how gorgeous those new models are and how amazing it is to get confirmation we're getting new plastic models as well as new resin characters and new plastic units. So, I mean, contain myself. Let's briefly just hit the high points. Those plastic foot knights. I was a little unsure, but Bretonnian knights on foot, the whole ethos of Bretonnia is charge! But they look so cool. Admittedly, I now need a third-party company to release some little peasants with coconuts that can follow behind them making clippity-clop noises. But yeah, the plastic hero on Pegasus. I will revisit that in a minute. But again, I know there have been sort of little potato can pictures of the sprue and a few pictures of the Pegasus doing the rounds on the internet, but to see it in all its painted glory. I love my metal Duke on Pegasus model, but I am going to have to get one myself, one of those. More on that model in a minute though. Let's quickly revisit the other great news that featured in that video. Firstly, all of the old specialist unit kits are coming back in metal, not fine cast. I mean, yeah, thanks the lady. So I'm assuming they haven't specified what that means, but I'm assuming that means the knights, questing knights, the Grail knights. We're probably talking more the 6th, 7th edition versions of those rather than my beloved 5th edition metals, but I can dream. But at any rate, it would be great to get myself a unit of those amazing questing knights with great swords, with like their wardrobes and lunch boxes and personal minstrels and so forth riding around on their back for money that doesn't involve selling my firstborn into slavery. Beyond that though, it does say we're going to get some characters back in metal. Now I know I've done a previous video speculating that the Green Knight, the Fey Enchantress, might come back in the Old World range. What I am really hoping it means though is when it says metal characters coming back, it is not simply referring to like the dude with the big axe on his shoulder and the Duke with the dragon lance. I am hoping, fingers crossed, GW if you're watching, please, Rapunzel the Lyonesse model, Tristan the Troubadour model, all of those beautiful metal character models that they released during 5th edition. It would be brilliant, even if it was only on a made-to-order basis. If they've released those to tie in with the Old World release, I would very rapidly go broke. The other cool thing, the trebuchet being released in Forge World resin. I mean, that makes sense. At this point, Forge World resin is actually cheaper than the cost of doing something that big out of a big old chunk of lead. But it's nice to be able to get the classic model again, rather than having to resort to third-party 3D printed kits. Crucially, though, these are the two kind of big things that I spotted that I want to kind of just revisit from this. Firstly, this is the beautiful, as I said, Hero on Pegasus model that we're getting. And you can see they've painted it up in the heraldry that they're going down for this whole army, this red and black heraldry, which is some kind of Duke of Baston at the period. But yeah, okay, cool, that's very nice. And, you know, he looks cool with a lance, and I'd probably model mine with a lance, because especially if we get a magic lance or something in this edition of the rules, great. It's the alternate build that concerns me. So, in the kind of the chat that was going on at the time, they said that this kit could be built as either a Duke or a Lesser Baron. And yeah, absolutely, I'm sure you can build this kit and you can represent it as either a Duke, or if you want to pay for a lower level hero riding on the Pegasus, a lesser level Baron. What they did not say, but I suspect, is that this kit also makes King Louen Orcslayer. Here are my reasons. So, if you look at the alternative build, you can see it's been painted in this lovely kind of yellow and white heraldry. Check out the breastplate there, though. Right on the front of the Pegasus, a yellow and black and white shield with a red dragon on it. What do we know from some of the lovely maps that have been released over the last several years while we've been waiting with bated breath for the Old World? We know that the heraldry of King Louen Orcslayer is a yellow and white shield bisected with a red dragon on it. Here is the other evidence that I put forth to support my position, that they have secretly released pictures already of King Louen Orcslayer. This is the picture of the head that they have painted on the model. Now you can see it's a flat-topped helmet with a kind of gold band with a fleur-de-lis going around the front. But wait! What does the helmet with the crown of Bretonnia on it that is worn by King Louen Orcslayer in the sort of last stages, the last king of Bretonnia. Why, it's a flat-topped helmet with a gold band around it with a fleur-de-lis on the front, all done in gold. Almost as if this model is wearing the crown of Bretonnia. I mean, that would be, maybe it's just an homage, but wait! What's that sword he's holding? Why, it's got fleur-de-lis quillions. Well, I know lots of swords have fleur-de-lis quillions. The Green Knight's sword has fleur-de-lis quillions. But it's got an inverted shield at the centre of the hilt, just before the blade. Flat at the bottom, the arc of the shield pointing down the blade. What does Louen Orclayer's sword look like? The sword of the Bretonnian King? Why, look! It's exactly the same sword! Yes, I think Games Workshop have sneakily shown us a picture of the first special character model for the old world. And I'm blown away by this. I say this, putting aside the fact we've got the damsel on Unicorn, we don't know if she's a special character. They were given a name for her, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's actually a special character. But Louen Orcslayer, I reckon that's what they have revealed. So that's my first kind of big, excited thing. The other thing I've thought about is this, is what does all of these kind of shiny Bretonnian reveals mean for the rest of the old world going forward? Well, certainly it sets perhaps a pattern for what we might expect for each army going forward. We've got a re-release of the plastic kits, we've got a re-release of the knights, the peasants, we've got a re-release of the plastic and metal combo kits, the specialist units as it's referred to, which might even include the Grail Pilgrims. Who knows? That would be lovely. But also we've seen that they are now recasting some of the bigger old school metal models in Forge World resin, and they've said it's taken quite time and effort to retool the mould to take to Forge World resin. Here's what I think it means for Tomb Kings. Screaming Skull Catapult in Forge World resin. New plastic kits, you say? Well, if only there was a way of replacing some kind of large model kit that would otherwise be metal but has perhaps been taken up over by fine cast, like Ushabti, for example. Multi-part Ushabti kit, you say, that can make a Ushabti with bows or a Ushabti with great big chopping things? Why, yes, please. Re-release of the plastic chariots, re-release of the plastic cavalry, re-release of the tomb guard, re-release of the Necrosphinx. I can see that this might be the model that we now see going forward. If it's a larger kit, like the Wood Elf Tree Man, for example, that might be re-released in Forge World resin. If it is a smaller kit, it may be replaced by a brand spanking new plastic kit, or we might get new plastic kits that didn't exist before. For example, imagine if we got like a new unit type for Tomb Kings, an entirely new kind of, models riding on like giant sphinxes or something, or a giant flying sphinx monster that a hero, a prince, can be mounted upon. What if the battle standard bearer example that we've seen in the Bretonnians, on foot, mounted, and mounted on monster, is replicated in Tomb Kings, on foot, mounted in chariot, or mounted on giant flying sphinx monster? The other thing that I was really excited to see from the preview was they mentioned about the fact that they were going to be releasing in the very near future, 2024, and that we were going to be seeing a release of various old plastic kits coming back, and the other kits, and books, they said. Books, you say? Now, does that mean perhaps that they are releasing books that are army books for each army? That would be very cool. New Bretonnian army book, yes please. New Tomb Kings army book, yes please. I spent much of 7th edition just collecting army books, to be honest, because it was more kind of just there in my head writing army lists than it was perhaps, buying the models and painting them up. I had at the very least just a large army of army books that I could field. But what if it means something else? What if it means new books from Black Library set in the era of the old world, an era that hasn't necessarily been explored that well, the time between the point where the comet hit Mordheim and the Great War Against Chaos, that 100 years that leads up to the Great War Against Chaos. Oh yes, I am so excited. That's my excited gibbering then from the release video for the old world. There's just one final thing I'll leave you with, and it's this. Oh look, what did Games Workshop accidentally put on Twitter and then very quickly delete? Could it be something saying, coming in February 2024, it's the old world? We finally have a release date. On that bombshell, I will leave you to it. Come back on Friday for more video fun. We'll have, hopefully, Tale of Four Gamers back again. Yay! And in the meantime, I will catch you next time. Bye for now.